Our last topic of the show, guys, is going to be talking about Wolfenstein. I want to talk about Wolfenstein. We haven't talked about this series on the YouTube channel as of yet, and I wanted to change that because, look, this is a refreshing franchise. It's just a very fun game to sit down and just kind of sit back, relax, and a very fun action-filled game, right, with a lot of gore and just a lot of excitement built around this game. I want to talk about kind of what happened in Wolfenstein because I feel like this is a game that has gone through a few, phases, a few stages here where, it kind of has its peaks and its valleys. And right now I was kind of thinking since Wolfenstein in 2009, I feel like that was kind of a low point for the series. And then I believe it started kind of going up and started really doing amazing things all the way to the new Colossus. And then I feel like it's kind of going back downhill a little bit. So what happened to Wolfenstein? Let's talk about it. In order to really talk about this franchise, guys, we've got to talk about the history of Wolfenstein, right? Guys, this game in this franchise dates back to 1981 with Castle Wolfenstein. Absolutely incredible. Like, it dates all the way back to 1981. And look, I mean, from Castle Wolfenstein to Beyond Castle Wolfenstein, which was, came out a few years later. And then years after that, you had Wolfenstein 3D, followed by Spear of Destiny. And then pretty much like 8 years after the Spear of Destiny, you had the return to Castle Wolfenstein, and it really didn't turn into just purely Wolfenstein, kind of getting rid of the castle part of it, just calling it Wolfenstein. It wasn't really renamed until 2003 with Wolfenstein Enemy Territory and Wolfenstein RPG, which was in 2008. A year after RPG, you had Wolfenstein, which was just kind of seemed like somewhat of a sequel to the Return to Castle Wolfenstein. That came out a year after in 2009. And this is where, guys, I felt like Wolfenstein Enemy Territory and Wolfenstein RPG was kind of, it was somewhat kind of going back in a decent direction. I mean, we can kind of go over all of the game rankings and such, but like Wolfenstein, for example, in 2009, pretty much all across the board with game rankings got like 74%. And then once we started getting to like some of the later games is where we started really seeing jumps in the actual game ratings as well as Metacritic. And so I felt like with Enemy Territory and RPG, those two games on game rankings got like 88% and 87% respectively. Now, RPG was specifically on mobile phones, so we probably can't really talk much about that. But Enemy Territory, guys, I felt like, it was kind of going in a good direction again. We were kind of moving in this good direction because, I had the original games and, I never played those. I came into the series, guys, with Wolfenstein in 2009. But I'd obviously seen game footage and such of Enemy Territory and Return to Castle Wolfenstein. And those games, did all right. It was kind of like moving in this good direction. And then Wolfenstein came out in 2009 and just didn't do very good. I actually was about to just completely leave the franchise. I was about to say, you know what, I'm not going to play any more of these. I gave it another shot, though. I gave a shot in the next one that came out, which was the New Order in 2014. And the New Order, guys, got I would say pretty much on an approximate 82% on game rankings. So it started moving in the right direction once again. And then you obviously, I really felt like the golden ages of Wolfenstein has been since 2014 to about 2017, I would say. Because we also had Wolfenstein The Old Blood, which of course was a prequel to The New Order. And that came out in 2015. Not as good of ratings, but it was okay. It was decent, not great though. But then the big one, guys, was Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, which was easily the best in the series in my opinion. Got about 89% on game ratings and unbelievable. Absolutely incredible. The New Colossus was awesome. Came out in 2017. And then that was like the peak, in my opinion. And so it was like, okay, can we get a Wolfenstein 3, like a continuation of this? This is so sick. I absolutely loved the new Colossus. I like the New Order as well, but the new Colossus was super cool. Like, it was just very well done. I thought it was great from beginning to end. It was on the edge of your seat action. It was just really exciting. Then we get Youngblood in 2019, as well as Cyberpilot. So really, we're going to talk about Youngblood, because Youngblood, they went back, almost went backwards, guys. You're going back to about, between 70 to 75% on game ratings, which isn't like absolutely terrible, but that's a decline, right? So what's happening right now is you had a rise in the franchise back to kind of mediocrity with Wolfenstein in 2009. Then it started kind of building between the New Order to the new Colossus to the best peaks of Wolfenstein, their history. And then now it's kind of coming back down with Youngblood and Cyberpilot. So here's what... Okay, so that's kind of like the history of Wolfenstein. That's kind of like, part of it. And now with what really happened to Wolfenstein, I think what happened was they went away from the formula that was working with the New Order and then with the new Colossus. They were doing something special there. Now, I'm not saying that they're not going to go back, and what they need to do, in my opinion, is make a Wolfenstein 3 and continue onwards with the new Colossus, and making, furthering this franchise, in my opinion, is what they need to do. Doing, like, I just... In my opinion, Youngblood there was just a lot of things that it took us out of, it took me at least out of the main, like what felt like the main story. I know it's a part of, canon of Wolfenstein, but it just, I don't know, like it was like a significant step backwards in the wrong direction to what they were building with the new Colossus. And, BJ, who you play in the new Colossus, was an incredible character. The characters in Youngblood, Jessica and Sophia, you don't really care as much as them, even though that they are related to BJ. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I just found myself not caring as much about that story. And I think it shows with the ratings and all of that stuff, the game ratings and the Metacritic and all of those things. That's what happened. I think Youngblood happened, and now there's that we're kind of going back. What we're seeing is something cyclical here, and it's kind of going up and down, whereas what you want to have is you want to have a steady increase. Maybe you go backwards a little bit, but at least you're kind of still moving forward, right? So Youngblood is a step in the wrong direction. However, that doesn't mean that the franchise is doom and gloom, because I believe that one really good game can put them right back on track. Think about the Call of Duty franchise. You think about Call of Duty, you look at all the games that came out for 6 years that were incredible, and then we had 3 games that were terrible. As in, they weren't absolutely horrible, but you went into the dark ages of Call of Duty with the jetpack era, that being Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare, which really, Infinite Warfare and Black Ops 3 were the dark ages in my opinion. So 2 years of just really, it was tough to be in the COD community. Then they come back, they go back to what the series was so good at, boots on the ground. You had World War II, followed by Black Ops 4, followed by Modern Warfare, and the rest is history. And here we go. We're off to the races now with Call of Duty. You had significant incline, a decline for a couple of years, and back in the right direction, and hopefully it continues, right? Wolfenstein, I'm looking at the same way. A little bit more back and forth, obviously, with these games. But I really think that there's a ton of potential with Wolfenstein. Like, it's a great franchise. And obviously, it's pretty popular. People have been buying it. And people enjoy Wolfenstein. So what I think needs to happen is a couple of things. Number one, I think Wolfenstein being a multiplayer game would be great as well, bringing people back, or at least having extra modes and such where you can like go, play against hordes upon hordes of enemies and such. That would be really cool. I also think that, like I said, just a traditional like PvP, PvE multiplayer would be incredible. And then of course, like just a really action-packed, fun, unrealistic, but extremely playable and replayable campaign. And, keep us, kind of, stay true to the story and such, but, continue moving in a solid direction. Like let's go back to like the main series here. What I mean by that is let's make a Wolfenstein 3. Let's get a Wolfenstein 3 made. I'm hoping that that's what we get, from Bethesda. And I mean, I'm assuming that after some of these other projects that they're working on, Wolfenstein is definitely something that they'll come back to. But that's what I'm hoping for, guys. I think what happened with Wolfenstein was, just some games that have kind of held it back from its full potential, but they have come out with enough good games that we can continue seeing that incline as time goes. I think if they just keep adding on to it, some multiplayer modes, some, other co-op modes, I think those would really be helpful for the franchise. But let me know what you guys think about Wolfenstein. What do you guys think about the franchise, where they're headed at this point? What do you want to see in the future of Wolfenstein? Let me know and let's have a real conversation about it.